Good morning. And so we begin, as we normally do, to set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment. And with the knowledge that to attain such a state, I must really perfect all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. And to do that, I must have a really thorough knowledge of what they are, what those trainings are, and to base that understanding on a non-mistaken presentation, non-mistaken text. And so with this in mind, I am here today to listen to a brief explanation on the outlines of what is known as the Great Treatise on the Path to Enlightenment, as composed by the great Lam Rim Outline. Shokdang gyatang ngapchu ngapsum. The Sherab ki parchin de rapchewa sum. Sherab ki parchin rapchewa sum. Sum de Sherab ki rapchewa sum. Sherab ki suba Sherab parchin sum. Dilwa Sherab ki rapchewa sum. Rabielo sum. Donan dobada kunzo dobada semjing to doja dobe sherab semjing to donan jawa dobe sherab jingo sumcha. And so, looking at again, continuing on from last week, we had begun the perfection of wisdom, and within that, the third subheading was the divisions or the subdivisions of wisdom itself, and there are numbered as three. First is the wisdom which knows the ultimate, wisdom which knows the conventional, and wisdom which works for or knows how to work for the benefit of sentient beings or to fulfill the purpose of sentient beings. And so we also had looked at then the first of these, the wisdom which knows the ultimate, and that's explained as the wisdom which cognizes the reality of selflessness by means of a meaning generality or a conceptual generality. So as mentioned last week, all phenomena arise in dependence are imputed in dependence. And so when we looked into looking into then the kind of different categories of dependent origination, it's referred to as 3 different categories of dependent origination. And the first is dependent origination in terms of independence upon cause and effect, or cause. And the second is the dependent origination is explained in dependence on parts. And the third is dependent origination according to being merely imputed by thought. And so they are generally explained in terms of varying levels of subtlety, beginning with the more coarse understanding being dependent origination, which is understood in terms of cause and conditions. Because this really confines one's understanding of dependent origination to functioning objects or objects that are impermanent. Whereas when we go to a more subtle understanding, that is the second category, independence on parts, it covers both impermanent and permanent phenomena. So here it is said that an understanding of dependence in terms of parts, of there being arising in dependence on parts, covers all phenomena, or all existence. And thirdly then, of course, the more subtle understanding that we understand dependent arising or dependent origination as being that which is merely imputed by thought. That is the most subtle understanding of dependent origination, and it's said that one needs a realization of emptiness in order to really cognize this. So yes, so for the mere reason that without such a realization, it's sort of that concept of being merely imputed by thought is very difficult for the mind to accept, to get hold of. It's like now when we hear that, something which is established merely in dependence on being imputed by thought, it's a very difficult concept to get your head around, so to speak. Yeah, so you can see, like in terms of taking each in turn, when we are presented with an understanding of dependent origination in arising independence upon cause and condition, like we can gain fairly clear understanding of what that means. We can see that one thing leads to another, and then when we are presented with the second level of that which is independence on parts, again, it's a more difficult understanding, but you can see there's a certain kind of logic to it, that you put the parts together, things come about, and that so we can gain some sort of an inkling into what they are about. But when we're hit with the fact that dependent origination, independence upon merely being imputed by thought, that's somewhere far down the line. It's like a much more kind of subtle presentation, a much more subtle understanding. And so you can see this also within the 4 established tenet systems of Buddhism, of Tibetan Buddhism, wherein only this presentation of phenomena being established in dependence upon merely being imputed by thought is only acceptable by the Prasangika Madhyamika. And so even within the Madhyamika there are 2 different schools, the autonomous and the kind of consequentialist or Prasangika. But the autonomists, even there at that high kind of that rarefied atmosphere of tenets, can't accept phenomena as merely being imputed by thought. That is just exclusively an assertion by the middle way consequentialists or the Prasangika Madhyamika. So this concept of dependence, interconnection, interdependence, dependent origination, and that the first category of that, the more coarse level of that, as we spoke, is that which is arising in dependence upon cause and condition. So this is the proposal or the assertion here is that all phenomena arise in dependence upon the cause and condition. And so they have this causal arising, and then they manifest as a result. So there's this interconnection between cause and effect, or cause and result. And we see this in terms of, say, lower tenet schools and even non-Buddhist tenet schools, where the Charvaka, or Gyang Pempa, as they say in Tibetan, hold that the phenomena arise from one kind of source, one causal source. But when we examine that to say that's a cause, can it be something which is permanent? Then say that doesn't hold up. We say no, it can't be permanent. It has to be impermanent. And so that is further clarified by looking into the nature of the cause and nature of the effect, and even looking into it from the point of view of the effect, to see how that is something which is can move, can change can adjust. That shows also that it comes from that kind of phenomena, that sort of entity, that cause, which has that nature as well, with that which is changeable, that which is impermanent. And then the question may arise as to, do phenomena arise from one singular cause or from many, from a gathering of causes? And then it is established that actually they arise from a conglomeration or a gathering of causes, that phenomena have multiple causes that bring them about. However, that would be counteracted, that say the one causal theory would be something that's accepted, say, in the context of a creator God. So those who hold that there is a creator God, and that God created all things, seen and unseen, all phenomena. And so that's an instance of a system where holding that phenomena arise in dependence upon one singular cause. And so that cause, that creator is also has the characteristic of being permanent. So in a tambo de casa de yo make it yo ameba dang lo yo at
yo at the logarwa jigde jebo dogen 속에 로 yo al 때는 좀 알아 다단 남백에 로 yo al 맞대봐 로 yo al 때는 좀 많이 봐 로 yo al 때는 좀 말했어 jigde jebo 군조 줘서 저 어디에 중나서 때는 좀 말했어.
And so then the other possibilities for the arising of phenomena, that they arise from non-existent, that which is non-existent is refuted from the Buddhist point of view, as is the notion that they can arise from the mere existence of mind. For example, in the case of a creator God, that God thinks of it and then it arises. And that those who assert that would be refuted from the Buddhist point of view, that simply thinking about something doesn't bring it about.
You are maybe good to us, you are maybe good to us. Because you are good to us, you are what happened. So it's you are maybe good, you are maybe
so that's this assertion that phenomena arise through the existence of the mind of a creator is refuted through the reasoning that is as good as asserting that phenomena arise from that which is non-existent from the Buddhist point of view.
아니 다가 이제 다고 매배 줄래 줘. 다고 매봐서도 다 야, 근데 군조가 써봐 되는 매봐 이네. 아니 지조어서라 답에는 데데지게 데데드네 안 수차로 와요. 아니 딜레이네 눕도겠지. 안 최 탐제게다 다니 소치. 그래서다 다고 매발에 줘. 다고 최 탐제게는 지금 다고 잡되게 줘 소치. 오다 데데를 줘 말이스 다고 매발에 줘. 매비 줄래 줘. 그래서 뭐 데데게 줘 말이스. 답에는 지조어도 줘. 지조어다 데데도 속에 아니 최 탐제 아니 지조어네 수차로 와야스. 안 지조는 뭐 눕도겠지. 다가니 이제 야 란자투베 제유도 주고 시작해 저도 가서 다 남바 메게 건강하게 가서 란자투베 제유도 주고 시작으로 가서 란자투베 제유도 주고 시작으로 와다 가서 란자투베 제유기 동아리에서 동아리 좋아.
So then the point of view of any kind of arising coming from a phenomena which is permanent is also refuted. There are certain schools within the Hindu canon that assert that everything arises or appears from what is known as a general principle, which is a permanent phenomena, and that they arise from that, as in make their appearance from the general principle, and then absorb back into the general principle afterwards. This is a position that is refuted, as is then ideas of the person, which is asserted as being self-established. That also is seen to be a faulty position. So from these positions, the conclusions are that phenomena arise in dependence upon cause, and that cause must necessarily be impermanent.
안 다가는 생게 미다블 중앙 잡마세 아니 그래서 로이 요가 매발 때도 좋아. 그래서 로이 요가.
And that
로이 요가서는 군조 써서 군조 로이 요가 어떤 매발 때도 좋고.
So that likewise there being both from arising from an impermanent cause precludes their arising from existence within a mind, such as Creator God. And likewise, it precludes their arising from any kind of permanent source.
제부스근데 안에 귤레테니 깨고고 해서 두번 귤레테니 깨고가 삼마세 주 요새게 제부 요새 깨그리 와 깨그 말을 하라고 뉴발레테니 깨고 해서 와 뉴베게네 좋아
So
다 가자데 제부 연사배 제라 니바도 귤레테 고고 해서 다 귤레테 고고 할 때는 주강게 제부 강게 깨그리 배서는 어디 깨그 말이었어 제부 라라게 주라라게 뉴발레 투베고네 아니 제부 깨그 했어.
And there's a further characteristic that these causes must have, and that is that they must have the potential to bring about a result. And it's, if one asserts that simply by being a cause it will inevitably lead to a result, that is not the case. That cause itself must have the potential to give rise to a particular result.
베나차나 베나차샤나 사변 그래서 세변게 사변디 제부 세변 카차와 좀 그러와 다 세변게 사변디 아니 가서도 애플 기도 말와 애플 그 사변디 7개 두고 말아. 그 라랑 그 뉴바도 몇 개고 또. 애플 기그리면도 7개 말아.
Okay, so it's really that the seed has to be consistent. Sorry, the cause has to be consistent with the result, as does the result have to be consistent with the cause, or in harmony with. So in the example of that would be that if we want to have hot chili, we have to sow chili seed. That if we desire an apple, chili seed will not give rise to an apple, and likewise an apple seed will not give rise to chili. So these are 5 different features or characteristics that a phenomena must have. And so when we bring this back to the happiness that we want, the suffering that we don't want, that it again emphasizes how we must have a very fully qualified cause or set of causes to bring about the former, the happiness, and indeed to eradicate the latter, the suffering that we do not want. So it's again showing how the kind of approach must be comprehensive and unmistaken. And so therefore in terms of really really going after the happiness that we want, we must be able to apply the very essence of all that is being presented here, to take an unmistaken approach, to lay down unmistaken causes that are going to be in harmony with what we want to manifest as the result, as the effect of that. And to be very clear about what we're doing. And that's very good to take into consideration these different characteristics that relate to phenomena in order to bring that about. And likewise, in terms of eradicating the suffering that we do not want, is to really understand fully all the essential points about how to abandon the causes that bring about that suffering, so that that we can get beyond the kind of merely praying that suffering may not happen to us, and understand that we have to do more than that. We have to identify the causes that bring about that suffering and to eradicate it at the causal level. And likewise, having established the causes fully and comprehensively to bring about the happiness we do not want, even if we were to pray that we didn't have that happiness, it would come about nevertheless.
제부 도와디 제부 도와 요바디 아니 제부 메그 매지 모두 sonkoda 주 매디 매바이나 제부 도와디 용도구면 도와 배는 거서 치 주제를 삼로 담아이네 로 배는 제다 내다 가림 배네 배는 쇼고이 배네 알루 포테토 이바이네 되게 그 사변지 매바 그 누구디 게두구면도 아니 제부도 용도구면도 와 등모도 주도구도 와 어디 뭐 조고도 왔다 가자 대대기 대화지 다 난그 자신의 대화도 동해스인데 보다 기능신체네 다 알아서 통모도 하고 먹어도 내줄 로가르면 또 내가도 지금 조고요 맞지 주차 상황이 조고 맞지 딜라 때는 아니 동해인의 대화인의 용대 주고도 와
And so to kind of gain this ever more subtle and comprehensive understanding of the law of cause and effect is what is being emphasized here. And to understand that, if we're looking for a particular result, but that we want it to happen causelessly, then we're really living in an illusory kind of world. And that is being explained in terms of even the external world. Of when we want rice, we plant rice seeds. When we want barley, we will plant barley seeds. When we want potatoes, we plant potatoes. And so that is to say that we must have the proper cause and the fully established or fully qualified causes to actually lead to that desired result.
다 대안에서 말아줘 세다린 대화 중에 동해 중앙에 대화 중에 대외 규칙 원도 좀 용도 동해 중앙에 동해 규칙 원도 좀 로다 베나 세티암 겨왕가 맞지 주사네 아니 거 용한테 열받아 와다 되줄 다 되줄 못쳐 고도 못쳐 원래 되는 아니 랑게 다 되게 다 지가서도 단에 손도 아니 지문에 전에 소소 삼로 당당 지당 냐면 지당들 교화시 당 고도 못쳐도 좀 교화시 당 고도
And so this is how it works for us. That in terms of the happiness that we want, that to understand that it arises in terms of causes and conditions, and that much of the happiness that we can experience in this life can be traced back to causes and conditions that were laid down in previous lives, and likewise in terms of our suffering. And so that we, in recognition of this, it's important for us to, upon recognizing this cause and effect relationship, to apply that understanding then to how we process our thinking and how we can change our situation, our undesirable situation in terms of our thinking, and enhance our happiness as well by the same change in thinking.
다 되네 딜레 도스다 사바다고데 아니 가서다 가서다 되긴 라바니 신다 가서지 차셔야 돼 봤습니다. 다 차셔야 돼 봤습니다. 거기 배나 두에디 아니 가서데 로다 준제점 많이 맞잖아다. 가서데 차셔야 되네. 고라기 차셔야 되네 두번. 로다 차셔야 되네 두번 지기다. 로다 배나 파리다 수리다 파리다 수리다 수리를 때는 파리도 수리도 대중 것도 와. 자신을 되는 거, 난 자신만 못 초발을 때는 요한테고 요래, 그러 다 샬롯 누장게 자신을 되는 두개 용거도 배는 남갔다 보이나, 남과 샬롯 누장게 다 남과 샤게 줘, 로이 줘, 누기 줘, 장게 줘서 거요로다, 대 줘, 대다 탐제라 되는 남과대 두번 것도 와, 줘라 되는 두번 거로 왔다, 그러 줘라 되는 두번 거로, 나 가제 자신을 되는 두번, 그 라왕 그 다촌 요마고 자신을 되는 두번. 아니 들어왔던 배나 다리직 데직니 숨스기다 그 뛰어서 뛰어보는 샤 아니 배나 대마오 다다 뒤숨디에 그 지가서데 단다 대마오 다다를 때다 대바다 마오바 샤고도 와 로아데 로아 내 마오바를 때 다다 샤에 로아 어떻게 샤 아니 지금 다달라 때 대바 샤에 딱 거기 용도거든. 내가 뛰는 샤고도 와.
So the second category of dependent origination is referred to as that which is establishing dependence on parts, and that is a slightly more profound understanding than the first, which is the dependence in arising independence on cause and condition. And we can see that parts goes beyond phenomena that arise just in terms of cause and condition. That here we can talk about abstract concepts like here and there. So here is that which can be posited only in dependence upon that which is opposite to it over there, and over there is again established because of here existing. So these two positions are established in dependence upon each other's parts. Likewise, direction, when we talk about north, south, east, and west, that west is what? West of that which is east of it. East is east of that which is west of it, and so on. And also in terms of time, so we can talk about the past, the present, and the future. Again, that which is the past is the past of what? The past of that which is present, and indeed future. And future is that which is future of that which is present and past. And so, that which is present is only present because it's not yet past and not yet, which has already been, it's kind of like the present from what has been past and not yet future. So these positions of time as well are all parts, and all they arise in dependence upon their individual parts. They are not self-established. They are arising in this sense. So, self and other, another example of this. Friend and enemy, again, these are all things which arise in dependence upon parts. So nothing really, it's very hard to find anything that escapes from this category, because even if you talk about my good friend, how are they posited as good friend? Because they're good because they're better than just a normal friend over here. So, you're always right, positing something in dependence upon something else. So we must recognizing this is good. Like again, saying left, right. One is only established in dependence upon the other. And so we use these terms like very much kind of like very offhand, left, right, that which is left, that which is right. But when you think about it, what the actual meaning is that they can't be posited, or they cannot exist as an independent existence. They arise in dependence upon each other in this case.
What is it? Condition by in condition of so now you tend to now that's in it. What do you remember? What did Cheba Chena? So all phenomena are thus, and that's. But we don't go around thinking like that in general. We don't really not paying attention. Things appear to us. We apprehend them to exist in the way they appear, and we just carry on as normal. But when phenomena are put to analysis like this, we find that there is actually nothing independent that you can point your finger at. So it says that one must conclude that phenomena arise in dependence upon parts. 셰베릭 민다와 저가 다 건가라는 셰바스 타네 톱되고 요바다.
And again, even consciousness, can only be established in terms of past, present, and future moments of consciousness, or even there are different types of consciousness. And again, that's the only way we can establish consciousness independence upon parts. So this again applying to say house, that we have this kind of singular concept of house, but when you actually look into it, we talk about good house. What is good house? When you look for it, you can see that it's a conglomeration of parts that depend upon not just the parts that are put together to kind of form this shape that we call house, but also the skill of the builder. That's part of it as well, that put it all together. So the actual notion of house is not there. It's something that arises in dependence upon all its parts. A car is the same. We're looking at a car. The wheels are not the car. The engine is not the car. The steering wheel is not the car. What is BMW? Again, you look into it, you see that it's that which can only be imputed in dependence upon its parts. So we can see then that's a presentation of dependent origination in the context of phenomena arising in dependence on parts. When we go again more subtle into it, the third category of dependent origination claims that all phenomena arise in dependence upon merely being imputed. And so then this level of analysis of phenomena as arising in dependence upon the mere imputation by thought. And again, like if you look into the sample or example of the car, and we look into that which established its independence upon its parts, now is put to the test, because when we look into the parts like the steering wheel, we look into the finding a steering wheel, we only look into again smaller and smaller elements of what isn't cannot be pointed to as a definitive existent steering wheel or the wheels of the car itself. That again, you ask, are the different parts of the wheels the wheel, like this, the rim or the tire, but when you go into it more and more and more, you can't find actually anything, even beyond the concept of parts, that will establish that the wheelness of wheel. So you arrive at the point that it's merely imputed by thought. If we take the example of a person, we see that the person is a kind of a conglomeration of their physical aggregates and their mental consciousness. But when you look into, examine the notion of person through analysis of that, you break it down and say, okay, where is this kind of like person to be found under analysis, and within is it the hands or the feet? You look into the different parts themselves, you find no objective kind of person there to be able to be pointed at. Looking into it even in more detail, into the hands, the parts of the hand, the fingers, going down into the kind of molecular level, again there's nothing there that holds under that kind of analysis that manifests as person, as the kind of quintessence. So even when looking for hand, again you have to kind of go, which part, where is hand in terms of is it the kind of quintessence of it in the fingers, the palm, the skin, down to the lowest kind of or smallest atomical level. One still is not able to find any kind of handness of hand in that sense. So that's where we say that things arise merely in dependence upon merely being imputed by thought.
hands nigmoto 다 주고 그러나 봤어요 왔잖아요 그나 딜러 가서 칼을 탐스가 탐 코라이 봤잖아요 그 니에모도 그다 차셔 소바 된대질라 봤다 그 단이 닥서 소리도 도배 파샤 참지면도 그도와 이제 대장 고치고 열어 뭐다 탐스 구조자기도 탐스 자서 뭐 양보 인사를 쓰는 다 그러니까 들으시는 양보를 쓰고 얼마 내가 다 들으셔 왔다 자 또 뭐 왜 들으지 꾸지꾸지래 그래 너도 지금 건다 양보 많이
So again, it's saying that like this process of analysis that kind of positions that were previously held to suffice for the establishment of the existence of phenomena no longer hold up under analysis. So we look into like the hand to find that. You can see that the actual idea that the kind of conglomeration of parts add up to the hand, to what is a hand. But that is only a nominal convention. When you look into it, that each of these parts in turn can be subdivided more and more and more. Again, they lose their solidity kind of in our minds as to what constitutes a finger or a thumb, for example, that when you kind of look into it, you can't find the thumbness of thumb. That is something that is merely imputed by thought. And that does not in any way contradict the fact that it's a very useful appendage to have, that you can move your thumb. You can show that you approve of something with the thumbs up, and as Genla says, to do this in Tibetan is kind of you're begging, you're asking for something, please. This is another useful usage of thumb, but it nevertheless is merely imputed by thought.
Yeah, what is what kind of what kind money do money but the carita to use money but never money but money but around the matuat money but around the matuat.
So that this process of putting phenomena like these parts of the body, etc., under analysis and that we are actually analyzing, looking for these parts. But when we really look into it, it's this not finding of what we were searching for that indicates something. It does not indicate that these particular phenomena lack any existence, that they are non-existence. It actually indicates that these are phenomena that have no self-powered existence.
소소 감다 투바제 과 sabli 먹고 도와 다 되게 와 sabli 먹고 도와 와다 되게 저 와다 된데 용거에 디 가서 가르쳐서 거 라완의 마주가 있는 리샤서 라완의 두바이나 와 땡고에 좀 재미도 땡 어디 거 라완의 마주가 다 되고 또서 아니 땡발에 되는 라완의 마주 라완도 마주가 될라 되는 땡의 중앙에도 줘서 내 되겠지 아니 그게 찍지라 좋아지네 아니 뭐 이거 내서 또 되겠지
So this is really like a starting point, that here the objective is to find more and more conviction into how phenomena actually exist in dependence upon this kind of analysis. And so here you are, playing off really the mistaken notion of that which is self-established or self-powered against the reality of phenomena as arising in dependence, as being dependent originations. And so there are many different levels of this, and it does require a constant presentation to yourself, that when you look into phenomena through analysis, that the conclusion is that they arise in dependence, and that automatically precludes their arising as independent or objective phenomena or existence. And because they don't have any objective or independent existence, that again further strengthens the notion that they actually arise in dependence. So when you play that off one against the other to gain more and more conviction into this position. And so in this way one comes to really realize reality.
아니 가소래다 간제 지금 이제 지금 동에 셋업 여기 대화 주위에 탑시 위에 되게 지금 레와 잡사 위에 되게 차 되기도 와.
Through realizing, getting in closer to this realization of reality, and then even moving beyond the fact that phenomena are merely arising in dependence upon cause and condition and on parts, but to this more subtle position, we also kind of give ourselves every hope and indeed empower ourselves to indeed eradicate suffering that we do not want, and to put in place the conditions to bring about the happiness that we so desire.
코아바르데 탈에 유되겠지. 타바다 탐지처럼 두개 유되겠지. 그 딜라데네. 디 따와 딜라데네. 뭐 여기 내서 데데 집이나? 아니 나 여기 내서 데데 투메토네. 아니 집도 두개 뭐 주고 차기도 와.
So this also, of course, is very, very importantly facilitates, allows for sentient beings, though in cyclic existence, to have the possibility of attaining liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment. It's through this view that one can, that actually affirms the reality of transformation, of change for the better for us. And so when you hear of this term of the Buddhist view of dependent origination, and this is what it refers to. Say what?
세와스는 내밖에 세와 방와 그 따와 된중 줘봐 냠면 제 줘봐디 난 세와매 봤어야 돼 가서 세와매 제고 가서 따와 된의 중앙이 봐 인자 뭐 이거 내줄 된의 중앙에 뒤 따와 켈링 거 요봐 인자 뒤 따와 뭐 줘봐 켈링 베터네 뭐 줘봐 이 인자 뭐 줘봐 다 켈링 봐 인자 안 들라더나 다제 약속 가서 세와 방에 들었어 세와 방에 맞아 편바 두고 그랬어 그래서 다 되게 그가 요새 깨를 때는 연구다 대화도 동네생이 돼. 뭐다 될 투바와. 세워 방고에데 랑이 대화를 당하는 시엘 표버주에 다 강할 차는 거다.
So it's often said in a kind of the same breath of the view, dependent origination, the behavior, non-harm. And so it's to be understood that the former informs the latter, and that one can understand the validity of and the correctness of engaging in non-harmful behavior. And not only that, but to be as beneficial as one can to others. That is informed by that profound understanding of the view of dependent origination. One can see it in terms of the cause and effect relationship, and that in all the different subtleties of the notion of dependent origination. So the view informs the practice.
다 되긴 될래봐지 가서 되긴 가서 로이요 뭔도 맞아 안에 딱게 그래서 규칙이 제가 많이 봐 다들 뭐 보셔도 얘네 다들 거서 남백이 뭐유기 내주 때라 하고 요바 인사 아니 뭐유기 내주 대다 뭐 튠백이 지려고도 엔딜 제시 잡아버리면 또야 가사 가실라 야 지지된 제보고 켈렘바나 편도 차이로 거기야 규칙이 요 말이야 가서 다다 뭐유기 내주 때라 하고 요바 인사 뭐유기 내주 때라 파도 그 때내 중화대 키주들이고 그래서 그다 뭐유기 내주 때라 파고도 그
And so it's to be understood as well that this presentation of how one kind of approaches one's on ascertainment of phenomena in terms of their not being established causelessly or by one singular cause, etc., etc. That is a kind of a Buddhist presentation. Now, from along with that, there are persons who find that it's important for them to live their lives with the assertion of a creator God, and that there is no criticism there whatsoever. That's perfectly fine, and that this presentation is for those who can find this useful to apply in their lives.
군조 켈링 다 군조 켈레나 펜도 차유가 직중고 열어. 안딜 군조 켈 제법을 제버래. 다 라는데 생각가 지금 제법을 거버래. 그래서 배나 라는 네바기겐 줘봐야 네바기겐데 군조가 제를 나부지 그러와. 다 조다 제버나. 아니 군조가 제 다들 삼로 다 해도 군조가 제버래. 군조가 지금 가서 좀전 매번 군조가 지금 말다 좀전 줘야다. 군조 신세 줘라다. 들들 써봐 보면 개봐도 야 지금 참보지 해봐도 장다 가마가 그거 군조가 제버래. 난 무슨 마가가 제거 좀 제면도 가서 무슨 군조가 제버래. 난 대대 이마사 아니 군조가 되발라 먼저 약보여야 되발라 먼저 약보 지고도 섭사정고 즉 야 최주에 프랑스가 냠네 지에게 미상주 야제 당에 탑시지도 와 탑시지도 와
And so, for example, those who assert creator God, you know, that this is in order to bring benefit, and that in benefit for self and others. It's not God's intention to create harm. But we can see that, say, for example, somebody who is faced with another who harms you, and then one can put that in the context of that which is created by God. This harm is created by God. This harmer is created by God. And that is something that is not done without reason, because God does not act unreasonably. And therefore, it's perhaps for me to, say, generate patience. And that there's that lesson to be seen in it. So one can think like this within the overall world context of Creator God. And indeed, for those who are friendly towards us, for the same reason, that is, God has created this scenario, again, for my benefit, and to see what I can take out of it with that understanding. And so, and indeed, the whole premise of the religions built up around the Creator God is to avoid harming and to create good. And so they are to be respected. They're a means towards the improvement of beings.
그래서 냠내 지게는 그 냠내 제사 삼로 당사 요에 되겠어. 삼로 당사 요. 다이나다 릭식 양 취역하라 걔는 딱리자 저발하는 건 내줄로 가라. 그 냠내 약고 지금 강간에 비다 보면 못 와.
And so that these are, of course, for those who kind of are sincere practitioners who really understand the import of their religion that they are following, and adjust their thinking in order to bring about less harm and more benefit. Of course, there are those who simply use and abuse religion for their own ends and enter, religious wars and conflicts and so on. In the name of God or in the name of religion. So that's a totally different thing. That's nothing to do with the particular religions that we're talking about. Just in terms of pointing out a kind of an exemplary practitioner of Christianity, Mother Teresa in Calcutta. Just extraordinary kindness, extraordinary mindset.
Judgment judgment and because the gig midila and ninjig and there's never check this. Look at better answer. Near midila judgment jevena and near me the ninjig there's a lot of there's never check this. Answer.
So that kind of. So beautiful. I mean, and just some of her statements again. Again, I saw one thing that she said, that if there is judgment of anyone, there is no place for compassion to arise. So it's a beautiful, really extraordinary statement.
And was not by your some of the good benefit all 70 million.
So, like, we are going on about benefiting all sentient beings, so we have to be, it's a good lesson for Buddhists to think that if we have all sentient beings in our kind of like field of benefit, but if we start judging, then we're kind of losing.
More 심지 탐지기도 산제 구바 되게 딱 낭주를다 뭐이다 하고 말와 낭주란 이슈래 심지 탐지기도 산제 구바 되는 얘기 요 말와 걔는 그 말와 그와 지대 제법 그 말에 난 세들이 약보잖아 구조 틀에 기그래 삼마도 산제 구바 두고 삼도 요 말에 얘네 삼바선 걸 항상 해도 그와 ninja스 쉬우 개체 못잖아 그와 근데 얘 딜 judgment 제바나 이게 딜 ninja 개도 말스 다 쉬우지로다 쉬우지로 항상 다 되게 딱 먼저 낭바 디나네 택바치고 디네 아게 되고 심지어 탐제도 산제 고마 좀 있어.
Yes, it just kind of like really holds the kind of Mahayanist up to the mirror, really. When you look at Mother Teresa, just her extraordinary dedication over her whole life. And so we're only able to see what it looks like, isn't it? To kind of see what it looks like from her life dedicated to God, with the purpose of doing her best in order to die and then go to heaven. So that's her objective. But the extraordinary sense of dedication towards others, the statement of, if I am judging another, then there's no place for compassion to arise in my mind. It's just a beautiful statement, extraordinary level of understanding, and that to say that's just like a very kind of advanced sort of level of compassion that any Mahayanist who purports to benefit all sentient beings would be quite pleased to be able to manifest.
다 말아서 낭수가 뭐 이슈가 아니래. 다 뭐냐 수도 자주 선바이요. 다 수과시에도 말와. 수과시에도 말. 이내다 뭐 단단 것도 통주도 샤워 와. 통주도 이슈래.甚至다 산재 고바 되는 이거 요마다 뭐잖아. 그거 좀 되게 좋다 와. 다 통주를 제바이나.
And so again, so we're again only able to kind of look and to ascertain based on what we see. And so from that point of view, Mother Teresa is an exemplary Christian, but she certainly, displayed very profound bodhisattva kind of point of view and behavior, and so that's extraordinary.
손도 팬도도 하고 다 된주 이슈 지금 되게 제한도 난 남발에 나 대가 첨보래 오 아니 소소 야구 제거에 대해 계속 내거도 야구 제거에 된주를 따고 산지가 송 주고 말 때 감가 때 된주 그래 지금도 좋아 또 그런 이슈 아니래 된주 남네 그랬어 지금도 밀 팬바 그랬어 주고도 안 들었다네 앞에래야만 보여 봐.
So these are like looking into these beautiful examples of great practitioners like this can be very, very beneficial. I mean, we look at the life story of Mother Teresa and the amazing actions that she initiated and engaged in. Like it shines a light on ourselves. You say, oh, I'm supposed to be Buddhist. I'm supposed to be Mahayanist, and so it sort of like really encourages you to go out and do good, isn't it? And to really live up to what your ideals are. And so it's very helpful like that to be able to look into great exemplars of the ideals that they purport to have, and to kind of gain inspiration from that.
다음에 배때고는 된지권에 제와도 무슨도 제와니 다도 고저 된지권에 제대다 하는 무슨 또 아니 다 무슨 또나 봐버려 거들었죠. 다 어제다 니와다 니와니서 리벤랭가라 케베 셔라고 서 리벤랭가라 케베다 심지 그래도 또 벌써 군조도 벌써 가지고 무슨 것이 숨도도 벌써 군조도 벌써 심지 그 된지 벌써 다 니바들 거래 다 니바들 리벤랭가리 다 구조 또 베셔랍들 리벤랭가리 케베 셔랍체 다 리벤랭가리 케베 셔랍체 다 숨바데 셈제기 된저고 또 베셔랍체 다된 오자 된저고 또 베셔랍체 오자자.
And so looking back at the outlines again, we had just looked at the first of those. How a wisdom knows the ultimate, and that had 2 points. We had just spoken about the first, cognizing the reality of selflessness by means of a meaning generality, and the second was cognizing reality directly and referred to an area being. The second of the outlines then was realizing the conventional, And so this is looking at the 5 types of knowledge and becoming an expert in those 5 types of knowledge. The third division, or classification of wisdom, was the wisdom working for the purpose of sentient beings.
너무 비싸서 셈 뒤당 거 봐. 나베 슝로 되게 쓰고라. 나도 리바 ချက်. 되네. 댄시 리바. 댄시 리바스도 다데 세마 리바 되네. 디야 산제가 송디야. 아니 세마 리바 거네. 세마 거네 되나 봐비지. 세마 봐도 좀 세장 다 거네. 그래서 로지션으로 갈라고 다 세마 리바스를 갈라고. 세마. 로다 같이 가서 리페 거네. 산제가 송어에서 롱주가或者 산제가 송을 다. 근데 좀 많이 봤지. 근데 좀 전에 산제가 송을 예전 연구를 장전 연구 요래. 근데 이번 자티 리페 때나 보면 예전에 봤대나 봐비 좀 그러다. 세메리 보고는 때나 봐비죠. 댄시리 퍼센트. 댄시리 퍼센트 세마리 퍼센트.
Die Tambotang Niba, right? The Rikanga.
세마리 퍼센트.
The Shantak they go
소아리 바이고다 소아리 바이고도 왔다. 로다 소아리 버서다 면제 슈무트서 로다 면 크리트. 아니 다리 버서다 그저 다이 조탄 중고요. 다 들었더니 또 다 보고 이렇게 봐 중고요 봐. 아니 소리 버서다 다 같이 소리 타마트 중고로 왔다 같이. 로다 같이
and that's in reference to the second of the outlines, the conventional wisdom pertaining to 5 types of knowledge. Again, the first of these is the Buddhist knowledge, and that refers to, of course, becoming acquainted with the different categories of Buddhist understanding and knowledge by studying the great texts of the Buddhist canon. And the second of these is referred to as like a grammar, but it's more than that. It's really looking in. It's really looking into the reasoning behind statements that are made in these texts. So it's examining things like, phenomena lack true existence because they are dependent origination, and saying what is the reasoning behind that? How does that play out? What are it's looking into the predicate and the statement of purpose and the kind of reasonings behind these statements. And so this is all included under that term of Buddhist reasoning and logic and so on. And then there's logic itself, then there's technical arts, and then there's medicine.
다 발레 tradition 마체 되고 어 산제가 송레 송레스도 산제가 송을 콩도 좀 리페트 주베데 시다시다 메데겐치 내가 밥이 시다 메데겐치 안 다른시 자나레 다 자나는 마다는 다다데 다 반제 지가소레 다다데 자나는 마단다 이게 위담레 안 자판레 코리아 다 자나는 마인데 스타치 버와 저쪽도 자나는 마인데 스타치 다 디게 다 Pali tradition 자마자 Sanskrit tradition 도와 나린데 tradition 수고다 나비 자와는 버체 Sanskrit tradition 때가 시라니 붙은 거래 파진도 더 깨는 거래 시라니 붙은 데 얘나야 마 텔라 받다데 야 리페시라 마 두지 좋대지 다 별의 상계가 때마다 또 민다와지 연구에 좀 사실 나린데 tradition 이 찍버다 얘나야 리페 거네 텔라 봐베다 그래서 별의 토마 다 두나 두메 가자 다 dumba gebe ba la ta an pege chege so an jaga pedita deka bu pet nale ta pedita drop de de ke to una ta zo zo de de shu zo de shu de pen sha sha ba na sha ta ra chi ta ta sha ta ra ji ta de kwa sama le ke ba cha de do an de za sama le ke ba ko ani shung lu de san je shung de la ba de cheme ko ne de la ba be chi wo de le ge su 룩수 사부스 따버와 다디 김생게 안 도지 민자와 차이 때를 창고였다 세매권에 때를 방어한테 그래서 중침부터 마수원도에 가서든 셀로카바 랑로샤바 쯔바방 왔어 아니 생기 루 때레데 안 태기면도 아니 랑기 루 디스 좀 잡고 아니 저 랑기 루 때레다 아니 교연주안에 교모제네 안티 교 아니 때레 쯔바조나 아니 안티 리베코나 파 대시장네 어쨌든 셀로카 랑로샤 쯔바방 왔어 원테기도 봐 각자 본소스 리베코나 때를 받는 용테기도 봐
So this, the kind of importance, almost preeminence, that he's placed on reasoning within the, particularly the Tibetan tradition, is highlighted really in terms of looking at the spread and the existence of Buddhism in Buddhist countries around Asia to this day. When we look at the Buddhism of Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, primarily following the Pali tradition, where the emphasis is on really holding to what the Buddha said. So the pronouncements that the Buddha made. And there's actually quite little emphasis on reasoning, using logic in those traditions. And that then we have the Buddhism of China, Vietnam, Japan, and Korea, where there is not just the Pali tradition, but also the Sanskrit tradition. As His Holiness points out, they recite the Heart Sutra and so on in their own languages. But even so, that is the case. Again, the kind of the tradition of reasoning again is not highlighted in these countries, and that here to kind of contrast that with in the situation in Tibet. Perhaps it was a blessing of how Buddhism was first promulgated in Tibet in the 7th and 8th century through the very stable promotion of the spread of Buddhism by the really realized Tibetan kings in that era, but also for the invitation of great Nalanda Pandits who came over to Tibet, and particularly Pandits like Shantarakshita, who himself was like his speciality was valid reasoning, and so he
logicians,
a logician, and so he emphasized this approach, of course, in his teachings in Tibet. And then this was really taken up by the Tibetans themselves, and through all the different developments of the Buddhism that we know as Tibetan Buddhism nowadays, so that one has this sort of like a motto really for the study of Buddhism in Tibet, where it says one uses one's reasoning to establish others correct, then our position or our tradition correct, and
dia ripe nyogu tosna never done and ripe manebe ripe yangda to tell pa jora what so pass.
And so that so one as it were clarifies and refutes mistaken positions in other traditions. One establishes the correctness of one's own point of view, and thirdly, then one again eradicates any inconsistencies through reasoned debate. One uses that to actually put one's own position to the test as well. So that in other words, that one cannot simply make the statement that this is what I hold, this is what I believe in. One has to back that up with clear, extensive reasoning. To a valid reasoning. It must be established by valid reasoning, and if your valid reasoning is contradicted by another, then one must accept the clarification. One must accept the improved position. And so this is very pervasive in the way that Buddhist education is delivered in Tibet, and has been, and in particularly among the big monasteries of Drepung Ganden Sera Monastery, Tashi Lungpo, and in the Tashikil Gompa in Amdo, in the Amdo region there.
But so many, not the only thing.
These are just some examples of the bigger establishments that were there. That the kind of very extensive Buddhist education was largely delivered through debate, through very intensive debate, because of the heavy reliance on and prominence of the use of valid reasoning in logical reasoning in debate.
There's a Sanjay Sungres, Sanjay Sungasam, Sungres Kellen, Sanjay Sungsama, and Yedon Shan, and Kang Ruche, because Sanjay Sung, do you come to Tubasoma? Do you come to Tubasoma, the Sanjay Sung repeat our Buship John? The day you buy Sanjay Sung and Tangi Yawachi. That Jangdun and you do Yawa, repeat when the check will be shakes as a Yomawa.
So it's kind of like the premise is that, you know, simply because the Buddha said it isn't enough to establish that as something that one should say is definitive, because the Buddha actually taught according to the individual dispositions, personalities of many different individuals, and therefore he taught both interpretatively and definitively. And so we can't simply say that a teaching is definitive simply because the Buddha said so. That has to be examined and analyzed in terms of by valid reasoning, to see, you know, is it actually the definitive view of the Buddha, or was it said for a particular purpose, for a particular audience?
Long tengo te long de ya repair never me balta ku yore pena soba kumbala de na su zebo yongres soba tang sans indo ka yongres repair job so de dos ka bure ta de long la tengo ya ta long la tengo te ne long de ya repair ne gudo ne gudo te ya ta ku yore.
So then there are, of course, statements of the Buddha that are very difficult to analyze in terms of valid reasoning. But, you know, like for example, in that case, one must rely on, say, valid scriptural accounts, and those are scriptural accounts which say that from generosity comes wealth. From good ethical conduct comes a precious human rebirth as a human being or a celestial being. From patience comes beauty. But these are very difficult to kind of establish just based on that statement itself. Yet the veracity of or the validity of these statements must again hold up to this valid reasoning and the analysis based on valid reasoning.
Correct. Then chajawaina jimbatawla tene longju yogurasne tende ko dot jimbatawla tene sobakumala tene ane kaso de suzebu yogurasa ane karsa tanda de sochum suwal dan hada me kumata wada tende sungdi ane kasa de sungdi miluarias sungdi semarias miluai sungdi cheche semayinde ane kasa de 다 로저 팀의 시베숑의 시차 랑게텐데들 밀로와인데 제바숨게다베 로인 베체스 제바숨 좀제들 제바숨게다베 로인 베체스 거기 다 제바숨스데 다 데데 산제고 숨은 바이네 무슨 참마라 녀고도나 디롱데 링 참마 말해 안 무슨 참마라 녀고요 말해 다야 디 롱데 야 리바 지금 녀고도나 리바 양다 지금 녀고도나 안디 롱데 참마 책이요 말해 다야 산제고 숨은 셴바치나 집바다나 롱주 연구 말해 수준 수나 하다미 고마 토고 말해 아니 가서 서바거나 아니 수인도 하고 연구 말했으니까 야 순교고 더 셴바치 요바이나 그것도 밑에만 차대기도 와 그래서 롱 셴바치 뇌되기도 와 어다 데레자 데레 수고면 뭐 수고 참에 믿어 봐 리베 믿어 봐 롱이 믿어 봐 거고 해야 돼 제가 수고 답에 롱이 베스 좀 될 때네 아니 또 참아 이거 좀 보고 해야 돼
And so, for example, those kinds of statements, generosity leads to wealth, ethical conduct to precious human rebirth as a human being or a celestial being, and that patience leads to a beautiful body. That these statements in themselves then must hold up under analysis. And in situations like this, where say obvious reasoning isn't going to give you kind of like a certainty, here you apply a process which is referred to as the threefold reasoning process. One is that if the statements, as were said, if they are contradicted through they are not to be followed. They are, if they are seen to be directly contradicted, they are not to be followed. Secondly, if they are refuted or contradicted through valid reasoning itself, they are not to be followed. And thirdly, if there is another example of a statement by the Buddha, which, for example, states that generosity does not lead to wealth, that ethics does not lead to a rebirth as a human being or a celestial being, and that patience does not lead to a beautiful body, then that would contradict these statements. And so this then refutes the validity of those particular statements.
다들 롱차마 많이 맞자대고 다들 롱차마이다 제바송게 다바이면서 무슨 차마를 녀금면도 제바차마를 녀금면도 롱차마를 녀금면도 근데 이마인자 제바송게 다바리샤 근데서 롱이 캔데 두고레스.
And so therefore, like in this particular case, then if these statements are not contradicted directly by direct valid reasoning, or even if it's not seeing, even with our valid sense consciousness to contradict that, if it's not contradicted through valid reasoning, and if it's not contradicted by another valid scriptural quote from the Buddha, then it is said to be, these are said to be valid statements, and they are to be followed.
어떤 저 산재가 송으로서 어떤 저거요 말이야. 산재가 송 자체 버리는데 얘는 수익된다는 송한테 하고요 말이야. 안에서 좀 제대로 봤던 거로.
And so
산재 좀 제대로 봤은 거 말이야. 좀 제대로 요래. 얘는 수익된다는 송으로 하고 말이야. 산재가 송한 이반은 좀 제대로 요래. 송죠. 얘네한테 수익된다는 송 하면 얘도 이미 장도 이미 하고 이반 고치 받지 거 잡으러.
And so therefore it said that one cannot simply follow just because the Buddha said this. That is not enough. We do not say that what the Buddha is saying is unreasonable, but because of course the Buddha has good reasoning for saying everything he said, but we don't know for what purpose he said that. Is it interpretative or was it a definitive statement? And we can only ascertain that by putting that statement to the test of valid reasoning, to find valid reasoning for what is being said. If that is able to be ascertained, then one has good reasoning and one should thereafter follow and adjust one's behavior. And so in that refers to that second category of the 5 types of knowledge, that when it talks about the area of reasoning, and that's what it refers to, being able to ascertain the kind of correctness or not of the Buddhist statements based on reasoning. So other levels such as the technical arts and medicine and so on, grammar, very important, but not as important as this type of knowledge of really ascertaining true reasoning. And the Buddhist knowledge, gaining Buddhist knowledge. These 2 are the most important of the 5. So let's leave it there. My brain isn't going very well. I'm a little bit exhausted.
세대 자와이만 좀 제대로 돼야지. 아니 지금 다 가봐도 탐지 저번 주에 놓고 시험 보래. 좀 제대로 조건 있겠지만. 다네 저번에는 뭐좀 미래 유교를 누가 배주 당도도 와. 나도 미래 유교 누가 남주에 들어도 와. 내 남주에 배주 당도도 와. 뭐라. 나도도 배나 자자나 들어가서 체리 다수 침부셔. 다 제기도 다다 내가 먹고 다 들어가서 지금 체리만 먹고 어디 사반이서 다 사반이서 항상 지금 요때 망부지 나는 자기 키아바도 송차교 장장 제로와 나베 체리다 나베 따와다 되죠 나 위에 되게 장장지 레데기도 뭐죠 되지 레데기도 가서 권하스 배 미래 저대 남주래 엔티 배주 쉬웠다 지지도 두고 뭐 여기 내주도 통한데 아니 뭐 여기 내서 제시 잡두고도 와 내가 차대 봤던자 말아도 체디 내다 이내다 개와치마에 땡기 좀 맞고 근데 지금이네 내가 근데 지금이 뭐네 아니 지 대화도 동안 그때 좀 많이 라기 남주 배주다. 이따가 또 많이나 아니 지 내가 비네 동행 용화. 아니 유림북이 동행 세트에 유림북이 대화 주투에 안 땡기 뒤지죠. 내가 남주 돈을 줘고 해야 돼도. 카도 통화 좀 카도 초할래 봐서 기만 좀 많이 받자. 띵사비에 삼로 땅을 줘고 해야지.
So this is has really been just a brief emphasizing of the Buddhist Nalanda tradition, which prizes the establishment of the reality of situation based on valid reasoning, on using logic and reasoning. And of course, that whether one accepts Creator God and the whole purpose.
It is a Jigdenti, so Wally. Jigdeng Nangi Jawa Ibane, repeat for the Samutang, get it touch of meat, to the Samutang. And it Jawachima take to make a day, to Samutang to one, middle you what Samutang.
And so it's really kind of really emphasizing that which is most prominent attribute of being human. In any case, that is human intelligence, which has the capacity to employ reasoning in this way. And so whether it is in terms of establishing the correctness or incorrectness of worldly affairs, worldly issues, or whether one has a more soteriological point of view, looking into future lives, and have a goal to attain in that sense, that again one's own human reasoning will be one's greatest asset in being able to fulfill those particular goals. And so, especially it's interesting in these days where science has become so prominent, and these daily pronouncements of great new scientific discoveries, particularly in terms of the kind of like reality, in terms of interpreting reality and views related to mind and so on. But the kind of like curious aspect of that is that so many of these conclusions have been reached by great Nalanda masters some 1500 years ago, and that they're just being presented as new by scientists now. So again, it's emphasizing sort of like compulsion really of human beings with that intelligence to use that reasoning anyway. And it's heartening really that they do come to the same conclusions. So it's from our point of view extremely helpful to really take advantage of that which is the greatest asset of being human, to plan both for the short term and the long term, and to establish happiness for ourselves and to eradicate suffering as well. So this is something that the kind of profundity, the profound capacity of human intelligence is capable of, and so we should take advantage of it. And so we make a dedication of whatever merits we have accumulated so that we can quickly become enlightened in order to really benefit all sentient beings, and that we dedicate so that all conflict in the world, from any kind of family disputes to social unrest to international conflicts, may be pacified, may kind of reach peaceful conclusion based on mutual respect. And that we pray for that peace in the world, for environmental regeneration, where the environment has been harmed, and the preservation of pristine environments as they are, and to see how that is so closely interconnected with the human activities, and particularly human dissatisfaction with what they have. And so we make this prayer that human beings will realize a sense of satisfaction with what they have, with less, in order to really bring about the protection and the regeneration of environments. We dedicate for adequate, timely rainfall as well. And so we make our Lam Rim prayer at the back of the book, page 29. Lam Rim dedication prayer. From my two collections, vastest space that I have amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in loving compassion for all life's mystery. May I find the best of complete rated paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means strong by strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings must be spread, one spread at a time. May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this great path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path graced by the Buddhas. When someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. And Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown jewel, the sages of land of snows. Losing Drapa, at your feet I make requests.